Hey guys, this is John, and welcome to another Climbing the Rating Ladder video. I'm playing Schism 90, a 2140 rated player. This is a 10-minute game. My opponent opens with knight f3. Okay, I usually play d5 against that one. Let's stick with that. We will see how it goes. Yeah, my opponent plays g3. I'll play c6, blocking the bishop when it comes to g2. I like this setup. I would recommend it if you're playing d5 against this kingside fianchetto. All right, and now bishop g2. Let's play bishop g4, developing the bishop prior to developing the knight, but I'm going to try to go knight d7 and push this pawn to e5. My opponent wants to chat, says, yo, hey, John. I'll tell him hello and good luck. All right, h3. So you can take here. I think it's a little more interesting to play bishop h5, so I'm going to keep the tension. Now, with no increment, time management is paramount. Okay, so 10-minute, I'm going to try to make good decisions here. I'm fairly familiar with this setup. I think this will be instructive for you guys, and this will be a challenge for me because these players are good above the 2000 level on chess.com for sure. Okay, c4. So I would say more typically I see people try to arrange e4 in this line via knight bd2 or queen e1. So I'm probably going to take this pawn. I think that's a responsible way to play. It's possible I've even played this exact position before. But yeah, I don't mind trading a center pawn for a flank pawn because white has to take back with a center pawn. So in effect, that was an equal trade in terms of the distribution of the pawns. Let's just continue with knight f6 here. Now, as far as my dark square bishop, I'm probably going to put it on e7. I could maybe attempt to develop it more aggressively to c5, but in my experience, it's usually pretty good on e7. I could see white trying knight h4, trying to get into f5. That's a reasonable plan. And I would actually anticipate that plan occurring because that is a tempting square. Should white play knight h4, I will drop the bishop back to g6, saying I don't mind a trade because I get to fortify f5, and I generally enjoy playing with this compact position. This may not be to everyone's liking, but I'm very comfortable in this type of setup. But white too may regard this as something of a victory, getting the bishop pair. Now, the whole playing down the H file, the half open H file thing, I believe that concept in general is pretty overrated. Unless you have a very clear attack or castling on the king side is undesirable and you clearly want to go queen side, you think your king's going to be safe over there. Unless those circumstances are present, I think you're mostly going to look to castle king side here. Despite having played h takes g6, do not worry about that half open file for white and their attacking opportunities. They can't do much with that. So just to emphasize that point. Okay, queen c2. I think both our queens are going to come to the c file. So I'm likely going to play queen c7 at some stage. I'm just debating if I want to do it here or castle first. Probably castling first is a little more flexible. So let's play it. Possibly I could pop my queen out somewhere else, maybe a5, but I think good bet that I'm going to go here. Okay, now a3. White indicates that they'd like to play for b4, and I think I should put a stop to that. I'm going to play a5. In long term, if I can get a clamp on the queen side, I'd be very happy. Let's say some hypothetical scenario where I have a knight on c5 with the pawn coming to a4, and white is unable to move the b pawn up the board. I think that would be great. Okay, rook d1. So this aligns with my queen, probably my signal to get out of there with the queen. And just play queen c7 as intended. Yeah, let's do it. And I think we're reaching the stage where white's probably going to commit this bishop somewhere. Maybe white will try to postpone that for one or two more moves, but bishop e3, bishop g5. Okay, knight a4. So angling for this square, the c5 square. Now, if I play knight c5, this is the first move that comes to mind for me. I'm betting white is going to play bishop e3 at that point. And not saying that's a reason to avoid knight c5, but just trying to anticipate what my opponent's up to. I think pretty good bet that they do that and try to gain that square for themselves. Yeah, it's kind of annoying. I mean, I could try to play knight c5, bishop e3, knight f to d7, reinforce. Or I could trade and then play knight d7. That might be my best plan available. Yeah, let's play knight c5. I'm not seeing a better plan. I don't want to tank here. We're still getting out of the opening, heading into the middle game. On bishop e3, I'm kind of inclined to take and then play knight d7 in the hopes that I can avoid an opposite color bishop situation. However, that may be overpressing. It might be better just to play knight f to d7 right away. I'm briefly considering on bishop e3 playing the move b6, which would accept doubled pawns and then kind of claim that the pawns actually control quite a bit of territory. I'm a little dubious on this strategy, though. I'm not particularly taken by it, but it would be interesting. I'm going to think about it a little bit as white is considering their move here. Because I feel pretty strongly white will play this. I know I've tried to predict that bishop coming out for the past couple moves, but I think it's time. Yep, there white goes. This would be pretty interesting. c5. Is it any good, though? That's the question. It does weaken c6. It kind of goes against this whole philosophy I pointed out of trying to block the bishop. Yeah, I think more sensible to play this knight fd7 move and go from there. Knight takes c5, knight takes c5, bishop takes, bishop takes. e3, looking fairly equal at that point, although maybe I can try to grind that somehow. Maybe I can press there. Yeah, I think I will play this rotation of the knight. Just checking for any tactics. One tactic that would be easy to fall into here, knight takes c5, bishop takes c5. Big mistake. White plays rook takes d7. Queen takes d7, bishop takes c5. White gets two minor pieces, two strong bishops against a rook. That position would probably be losing for me. So it's imperative that on knight takes c5, I recapture with my knight. If white chases there, by the way, b4, I probably will play knight e6. I might take on b4 first. So I have intentions to maybe pivot the knight. White does take. Now, bishop takes c5 would be the move to try to kill the play for white, followed by e3. Notice how both sides would be using their pawns to block the opponent. Okay, white plays more ambitiously, though, b4. I'm glad to see this move because I think it'll make for a more interesting game. Now, is that actually a little tactical error by white? Can I pinpoint that? Take on b4, rook takes a1, and then knight a6. Is it possible that that wins a pawn for me? It might, it might. Idea b5 take on b5, and then the queen will be pinned on c2. It's a fairly simplistic way to play the position. I mean, I'm trading a pair of pawns and then immediately trading rooks and trying to prove that white is awkwardly placed there. I think it's possible white will have some compensation. With the bishops, they always have compensation. But on the whole, white's going to be fighting for that. They're going to be fighting to prove that they can hold that. And I am going to be under 5 minutes here with no increment. So if I can force white to start spending some time solving some concrete tactical issues, and I don't see danger for myself, I'm probably going to go for that option. Because I do like the look of it. Let's try it. Yeah, let's take, and then knight a6. And see what white's going to do about this pawn. It's double attacked. And again, b5 I'm going to take here. Okay, am I missing something here? White played b5 almost instantly. 5 seconds elapsed on that move. That's a committal one. All right, so now I feel like I'm free rolling in this position, as in I'm playing for a win or a draw. Not discounting the chance that I could blunder and lose it, but unless I've seriously miscalculated something here, I should be able to win the c4 pawn or push this pawn to b4 and maintain an extra pawn. I think the balance has shifted now. The momentum has shifted. I think that was a pure based on white thinking now, I think that was an oversight on their part. Okay, queen e4. Yeah, so white's going to try to play to regain a pawn. Makes sense. However, I get to get the queens off the board. That's kind of nice. So let's say pawn takes c4. Just thinking if there's any other moves that make sense here. I think that's what I'm going to do. We're going to trade on b7. Knight can come up to, say, b4. Yeah, it's still going to be tough against that bishop pair. It controls a lot of territory, but I think we're looking good there. I could take with the queen, but I don't like letting this queen get into the open board and create threats. So yeah, let's take here. Probably pre-move the capture. I don't think I'm going to be doing much else than that. So let's pre-move this. And focus on where I'm going to move my knight. Knight c5, there's a possibility of a trade in rook c1. Maybe I can eke out an extra pawn there, but I think knight b4 is just a more ambitious move here. Does white have rook? Okay, rook c1 at that point. I have rook b8, fortunately. Yeah, let's play knight b4. The best trade I can hope for here, I think, would be a trade of the dark square bishop somehow. That seems kind of unlikely now that I played knight b4. But I would like to get that swap in. If I could trade knight for light square bishop, I think that would be good too. I'd like to avoid an opposite color bishop situation. Right? So trading like the knight for the dark square bishop isn't as appealing. Although if I could play knight c2, fork those two pieces. Okay, white goes there. Huh. Seems like an awkward placement for the rook, though. I could move the c-pawn. What's white going to do? Rook a3 at that point. Okay, but I have rook b8 whenever I want as well. This rook b8 might be my ace in the hole. C3, rook a3, rook b8. Bishop e4, let's say f5. That starts to look good. Not to mention there's c2. I can get my rook behind the pawn. I could also start with rook b8. I'm not sure which one to start with here. They have advantages and disadvantages. Maybe I start with rook b8. Yeah, let's start with the slightly more flexible move versus committing the pawn. I want to see where this bishop goes. Like, this might impact where white puts the bishop. As the old saying goes, though, passed pawns must be pushed. So look for me to push this c-pawn pretty quickly. Okay, yeah, bishop goes to f3. So I'm happy to see that because I think in the other line, the bishop was likely to go to e4. Maybe tactically, white realizes something's up with that, though. Okay, so if I play c3, rook a7, bishop d6, is white going to come behind the pawn? Maybe I should play rook c8 here. Ooh, rook c8 and then bishop c5? I don't know. Tricky. Yeah, maybe I should actually play rook c8 now. Calling a bit of an audible here. Let's do it. I can't think too long in this position either. I need to make some moves. f5 may be another idea that should be on my radar. But let's get behind the pawn. I don't want this and this happening, which I just realized before discarding c3 that could be an issue. Yeah, so now if bishop d2 attacking the knight, I can push the c-pawn with tempo. If rook a7, maybe bishop c5. Looks pretty good. There's a bishop trade. My king will be safe on the back rank. We're going to be playing basically a 3-0 game here in a second. So buckle up. Yeah, rook a7. Okay, I think bishop c5 is pretty convenient here. Just scanning for tactics, scanning for something that could go wrong. Not seeing it. So let's deploy the bishop and look for the trade. So nice to have that window on h7 to go to. Now, if white plays bishop e4, trying to get back here somehow, look for the f5 move. Okay, this is a no-brainer move. If rook b8 at this point, I think I can push the c-pawn. White takes the knight, I push c2, and that pawn's going to queen. White can't stop it. White can give a check on h4, harmless check, but king g8, we hide on the g-file again. So I think this c-pawn might be a winner now because this bishop looks screened out to me. Looks like it's not participating. Also helpful that the rook is behind the pawn, and when I push to c2, my knight is ready to go to a square like a2 in a lot of cases. Let's say with the white rook sitting on c1 to dislodge that rook. So white needs something in a hurry. I think white's going to have to give a bishop to try to stop the pawn, and maybe that's even being optimistic. But yeah, e3, c3, bishop d1, c2. That should be a pretty trivial win for me. The no increment time control is intense. I definitely recommend playing with an increment for you guys in your rapid games. Rapid, classical. I wish they would bring back delay too. I think delay is an interesting time format as well that I used to play over the board in a lot of tournaments, but got supplanted by increment for whatever reason. Okay, bishop to e4. So again, f5, or do I just push the pawn right away? f5 is pretty attractive. I like the idea of it, but bishop e1. Yeah, that's probably the right move because I get so much momentum going with this move. Is there any complication with like rook b8 after that? f5, rook b8? Maybe. That's a bit annoying. Okay, maybe I should just play c3. A little back and forthing mentally. Yeah, let's just go c3. I think let's push it. All right, so white is making it clear that they're going to give the bishop, but I think f5 is clean here. I don't even have to let white win the f7 pawn. That should take care of business. Let's do it. Bishop b1. Do I play c2 or even rook d5? Rook d5 might be the absolutely clinical way to play this. Okay, there is. Yeah, nah, let's not mess around. Let's just do this one. Take. Win with the extra piece, hopefully. Show my bullet skills if I can. Okay, I think I can take here. Knight d3 coming. Here. Let's go. Let's actually play rook b2. Why rush things? Maybe I want to play g5 coming up. Because I kind of have this knight d3 move whenever I want, but I'm going to wait for the right circumstances to play it. Yeah, maybe now. Maybe now do this. Yeah, let's go here. Take here. White can take here, but I'd be happy to play that position. Should be winning without a problem. I think I'll just go g5 next and bring up my king. Maybe king h6 first, but g5 is also fine. Okay. Yeah, let's try to break out a little bit. Uh-huh. Start bringing the king around. White can't approach here, so I think this should be good. Block with the knight. King up to defend. Now we are in a low time situation. Let's be clear. Probably cutting it closer than I would like, folks. But it wouldn't be a John video if I wasn't. Oh, he actually had check there. King d5, rather. That was a decent chance by white. Been a while since I played bullet chess. Okay. Whew. All right. GG to my opponent. I think I actually misstepped there with exactly one move. Right here. I took on G4. White actually has King D. Oh, no. King D5. Okay, I can play Rook D4 still. But that looks scary in the moment with my knight pinned. So, yeah, I think it's still winning. Okay, yeah, interesting one. I think the key moment in the game was when White rushed the B4 move. Seems to me that that was played too quickly. My opponent asking if this is going to be on YouTube. Yeah, so I'll be curious about my opponent's thoughts. I do think B4 was played too quickly because it seems like White is losing a pawn here by force. And there's probably better ways to play this too, because White is going to go down a pawn, but I do think you want to keep queens on board. Maybe a move like Rook C1, something like that. Yeah, nice opponent here. Just chatting with them. I'll encourage them to drop a comment. Let's take a quick peek. I have to run here in a second, so this is going to be an abbreviated analysis. Maybe just check a few things with the engine. I do like this setup, blocking this light square bishop here. I find this to be a pretty useful setup. And I like this deployment where you bring the light square bishop out first, then play knight d7, looking for a quick e5. I oftentimes prefer to delay the development of the kingside. This is more of a slow-moving opening, this King's Indian attack setup, or the lazy title player opening, as I call it, because I see a lot of title players playing this. I think all this has been played before. The engine's probably going to like White. It likes the bishop pair and the potential White has there. So I'm not going to claim Black strictly has engine perfect equality. And in fact, I think my opponent was doing a great job. The first many moves here. Maybe bishop e3 first. But realistically, I think a position around here is probably an important one. Maybe White needs to play something like h4. I was thinking about that at various times, trying to activate the light square bishop. Yeah, maybe Rook D2, trying to double. I like that suggestion of the engine as well. I can try to trade and then play the knight in. Remember, we're not going to go bishop in, trying to trade dark square bishops. That often runs into this move. Rook takes D7, so you got to be vigilant for tactical shots, even in a more strategic position like this. So knight takes C5, knight takes C5. Ooh, B4 is up there, so we evidently missed something. Because I thought that this was... All right, well, now it's starting to go towards equality or black advantage. I thought this was challenging. What is the engine going to come up with at this point? Queen A4, Queen B2, Queen B1, all queen moves. Okay, so is this the type of queen move where White gives the pawn and then comes down and attacks B7? Although this is solid, I do believe the engine when it says that White has full compensation here. That's the way I interpret this evaluation. Plus 0.03. Okay, so 3/10 of a pawn, basically nothing. But Black is up a pawn, remember. So the engine is essentially pricing in a full pawn of compensation for White. It's saying that White has plenty of play for that one pawn, sufficient compensation. And I think I see why. I think Rook B1 is coming and maybe an eventual attack of the knight, Bishop D2 or C5. It's probably very difficult for me to move this. So it does appear, yeah, even after B5, even here, there's some potential compensation, although I think the margin might be a little slimmer at this point. Rook B1, right, trying to get at B7. I saw I could play B4. I probably would have done that. Bishop D5, yeah, anchor the bishop. This is still annoying. Maybe the queen coming somewhere. E4, B3. But it did seem, with the queens coming off the board, it just seemed like White was balancing on a razor's edge here to try to calm this position down. Rook A4 is a mistake. Okay, Bishop D2 is the only move that the engine is really liking here for White. And why is that? Is that mostly just because it halts the progress of the C-pawn? I think that's probably it. And if they can get some construction like this, maybe they can prevent me from advancing further. Because my knight is kind of dominated here, isn't it? It doesn't have these squares to go to. Also can't go to the A file. So interesting. Even Queen E4, Queen takes B7. Yeah, and this is all correct for me. Even that is playable for white, but the margin for error is pretty slim. Wants me to just play c3. I was debating between c3 and rook b8. Very close call. I do feel like bishop f3 was a mistake. I feel like bishop e4 should be preferred because remember, white had to switch their bishop to that diagonal anyways later. And then rook c8 is good here. Yeah, I hesitated to play c3 because of this rook a7 move attacking the bishop. And I was just envisioning something like, let's say even bishop d6, rook d7, bishop f8, and then the rook eventually getting behind the pawn. I can even push c2, but I don't like how tenuous that is. White can start hunting down this pawn. So I'm glad I found the move rook c8. I think it's very tough for white after this. Yeah, and bishop c5. Probably white's losing here. Engine seems to be suggesting something like bishop c1 or king f1. And after bishop c5, that c-pawn coupled with the knight. Again, even if white tries to attack my knight, in this case, I can simply push the c-pawn. And again, note how that h takes g6 move way early in the game, that trade of the bishop for the knight, actually helped me out big time because there was no back rank issue. White has a check here, but that does nothing either. Yeah, and the rest was me trying to win this cleanly and also trying not to blow it in time pressure, which I think I succeeded, but we're always white knuckling it a little bit, right? I know you guys are as spectators. I think this was all okay. As long as I had king d5, rook d4, I feel better about that ending. All right, I got to run, guys. Sorry for the abbreviated analysis today. Hope you enjoyed this game. Thank you very much to Schism94, the game. Please feel free to let me know your comments down here. I'll pin your comment. Love to hear from opponents. Interesting one. I do think white was a little bit better in the middle game, but despite white having compensation here, it seems like b4 was rushed. Yeah, I would have played some sort of build-up move. I like this h4 move a lot, Schism. Trying to get the bishop out here. Maybe you could have done that in this position too. Or the rook doubling. Maybe useful to keep that in mind. I do feel the whole b4 operation at best gives you compensation, but at worst, something like the game happens where you just never fully recover from the pawn loss. All right, thanks again, guys. Hope everyone's having a great week, and I'll be back again soon with another video.